Coming up on the next edition of Community Insider, we continue our trip through White County as we explore different historical areas in the White County area. Hope you'll stay tuned. That and much more coming up on this edition of Community Insider.
Out in Eastland, this was his house out in Eastland, and this mantle was donated to us from that house. And so the fireplaces, of course, were probably coal burning. And
now, is this some of the coal from the...
It actually is. This is coal from Bonaire. We went down there, and the guy that owns part of the land down there, he went into the mine down there and actually got this coal for us. Get people to bring pictures. They would bring them, but they didn't want us to touch them. You know, they would have them in their pocketbook and have their pocketbook on their arm, and they'd get them out maybe and show it to us. Well, one woman wouldn't even let us copy her pictures. And pivotal in the mining operation, like I said, when General Dibble got this started, he had two problems. One was he had no way to get the coal out, and the other was that the people around here were not miners, so he had no experienced workers. So the wall right here is called our immigration wall, and we include the history of how he brought workers over from Scotland. And these were some of the first ones: Archie Smith, Thomas Smith, and the Mackays, David Mackay.
Welcome to another edition of Community Insider. Join us as we travel Middle Tennessee, uncovering history and experiencing the adventure of unique stories and events coming to you inside your community.
I'm Linda Mackey with the Bonaire Mountain Historical Society. I'm the president, and this is Carol McIntosh, and she's actually the lady that gave this house to the society as a museum.
Ladies, I know that there's a lot that we have talked about off camera about some of the things that you guys offer here at the museum. How did all this get started? I mean, what was the beginning of what we know now as the museum up here in the Historical Society?
Okay, it started back in 1994. I was a teacher at Bondycroft Elementary School, and our principal came up to me one day and said, Linda, our superintendent wants our school to put in a grant application for volunteer electric, and it has to have something to do with power, energy. And she said, do you know anything up here that we had any involvement in that we could do write a grant on that? And I said, well, I know that a long time ago we were a coal mining community, but that's about all I know. And she said, well, let's go with that. Let's look into that. So she let three of us teachers were kind of in charge of it. We were 3 different grade levels, so we worked on activities for 3 different levels. And she was very supportive. She gave us time to work on it together, and we developed lesson plans. And what happened, we developed lesson plans for a whole week of community history with our whole school. And it involved, I don't know, we did food preparation, how they, we compared how they did food back then to now, the chores of children back then to now. We looked at how our community was back then and the impact that the coal had on the community. And we were teaching children about coal, and they didn't even know what coal was. So we ended up going on a field trip. We just had a great time with it, and the kids were so excited. They would go home, and we'd tell them, go home and talk to grandparents. Well, they would come back, and my grandpa was a coal miner. And what I guess the best thing that happened out of all of it was there was a way of life that was forgotten, and if we did anything at all, it was to bring a spotlight back to that era, and those people felt so important. And you know, that was the whole basis then of what has been going on for the last 17 years with our society. We ended up, at the end of the week, we had a coal miners reunion at the school on that Saturday, and it was a grand day. We were kind of disappointed we didn't have as many come as we would have liked. Of course, it was the first year, but we decided to make it an annual event. And so this coming year is our 17th year. May 1st will be our 17th year, and it has evolved in different ways. We used to just have it as just a day there at the school, but now we call it, we've changed the name, we became a historical society, and now we call it the Bonaire Mountain Historical Society History Fair. And people from all around come to it. We have displays of family history, we have their school history, railroad history, and we also do tour bus tours now. And this is our 11th year to do our tour buses. And this, we rotate our communities. This coming year is our Bonaire community, and then next year we'll go back to Eastland, and then the next year we'll go to Ravenscroft. But we rotate those, so we've done this for 11 years, and that is what has kept it alive, I believe, because everyone loves to do the tours. We do 6 tours. We have 3 tour guides, and we each take 2 tour buses, and so for a total of 6 tours.
You speak about communities. Explain to the ones that, just like me, you know, Eastland and Bonaire and different things. All these communities was tied together through this coal mining company, right? Is that basically what you're saying?
Yes.
And do y'all take, during those tours, do y'all just vocalize on that one community during that time, or how does that work? Yes,
the tour buses just kind of concentrate on that one community. Like this year when we go to Bonaire, we will go down to the Rock House, because the train came through the Rock House, and that's part of the mountain history. And then we come back through where Wrigley Gum Company actually were stockholders in our mine, and there was a house called Spearmint Cottage, so we show where it stood. We have a few things still standing. We show with the basic coal mining houses what they were like, because we have 13 that are left standing in Bonaire. We go out to the Corolla mines, we visit the graveyards, so it's you know, a pretty good history. And this year we're wanting to include the Camp Bel Air history. That was something that came a little later, but in Bonaire we had the Bonaire coal mines, and then we had the Corolla mines, and from there the train went on out, and this is our Dorosset community, which it's not a coal mining community, but it's the train community. And then the train went from Bonaire to Dorosset, and then it branched off and went out to Ravenscroft, and then out to Clifty and Eastland. There were mines at Clifty and Eastland, so we do the tours, we do concentrate on the history in those areas. There's some things that are similar in all communities. They all had a store, they all had the check office, and the churches, you know, the schoolhouse, which was the center, the hub of a lot of things, but each community was also different in some ways. So
now you guys, you know, through the years from these different reunions that you've been having, you was collecting pictures and stuff like that, more people was getting the information about you know, the interesting stories behind their family and different things like that. Finally, in I think 2008 was the process where you was actually getting this building here, or later. When did that come out?
Well, when I actually retired from teaching in 2007, so there was kind of a breakdown happening with the school, which that's still our hub, but we decided to move away from it being called the reunion, because there were so many people that thought, well, I wasn't a coal miner, so I'm not going to come because it's a reunion. So we decided to become a historical society in 2008, and we started charging membership fees. And with that fee, it's a $25 a year, or you can buy a lifetime membership for $100. And with that, you receive a newsletter. And we also have done members-only fall and spring tours, which have been great. And we allow non-members to come, but they have to pay. But it's free for members. And then in 2009. Carol, I think you heard somebody say or something that we wished we had a museum.
Right.
And in 2009, Carol donated this museum in July, and we had open house. The grand opening, November 14th, was the first in 2009. So it went up quickly. Heard Sullivan, and he let the inmates help, and there were volunteers that came out and helped and really did a makeover on this place.
Carol, how long have you owned the house before you?
Oh, it's a few years, probably about 5 years.
I see.
Yeah.
And are you originally from this community?
No, I moved here 17 years ago.
And so,
Yeah.
is this? Did you ever imagine when you first moved here you would have as much history in here in one of your houses?
No, I
later
didn't.
on?
I really didn't. I was so excited when I was able to get this place because with Cliff, when he had it, Mr. Cliff had it, and I was always over here, and I just was fascinated by the coal mining thing. So I just made up my mind, if I could get it, I would. And I did, and I was happy about it. And it was just overwhelming to be able to do that. It was a burning desire inside, you might say.
That's what I find out a lot of times is it's not necessarily just the people who's in the communities, but sometimes the most powerful people is people who also moves in, and they are so wanting to hold on to that history that's helped you out also in this situation.
Yes.
As far as the house that the museum is in, tell me just a little bit about the history that you know of about this home.
Well, I don't know a whole lot of history about it, really. It's just that I've met people that lived here, and I've heard some fascinating stories.
If you know some unique stories or you have some questions or comments about the show, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us at phone number 931-259-1193 or email us at communitynews@bltv.net or visit us on the World Wide Web at www.cnplocaltv.com.